So, yesterday, you watched that little dirt cheap bootleg video I gave you on factoring, and you showed me the notes yesterday before I gave you your stance. The word expression, an expression is just a fancy schmancy word that means variables, numbers, and operations together. Now when I say operations, I mean like adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. Variables, I mean ABCs, like letters, and then numbers, well, you know what numbers are. If you don't know what a number is by now, there's a psychologist on campus that could send you over there. You need help. Bad joke. So underneath expressions, go to right, put a parenthesis, go to right, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, and 1, 2, 3s, dot, and A, B, C, dot, dot. So when I say the word expression, all I'm talking about is, look, any collection of operations, numbers, and variables. Variables are letters. You know that already. You're Math 3 students. Any collection of those things is an expression. I can make up an infinite amount of examples in my head. Delphine, hood up. Thank you, sir. That's like the third time I asked you to do the math. Appreciate it. I'll just make one up off the top of my head. Medina, what's your favorite letter?
C.
Look at this. This is a variable. I'm just going to pick one of these. Give me another letter, Rocha. Look at this. Now I'm going to pick another operation. Now I'm going to pick a number. What's your favorite number? Okay, that's an expression. It's a collection of this, this, and that. All it is a fancy word for any collection. You can make them up at the top of your head till the cows come home. You've seen this word a lot of times since junior high, an expression. Now you know what it means. This is a collection of numbers, variables, and operations. These are just a fancy word for operations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. Now, that's an expression. Just made up the top of my head. Factoring, yesterday, was stuff you multiply to get to other what? On that video? Stuff, huh? It's stuff you multiply to get to other stuff. A lot of stuff. For instance, the factors of 10 are 5 and 2. These are factors. Don't write this down, because this is a review of yesterday before I get into the meat of the lesson. This is the stuff I multiply to get to that stuff. That's all the word factors means. So factoring means take something and break it down into the stuff you multiply to get to the stuff. If I say factor 20, break it down into the stuff that multiplies to get to 20. Thank you. That's one example. 10 times 2 would be another example. Beautiful. We're good. Here we go now. Watch this. Watch this. Let's see. I got black shoes on. Who else has black shoes? Mr. Snedos has black shoes on. Rivas, Valdez, stop hiding. Ibarra, Ramirez, Rocha, Igarera, Cheng, and Mr. Mendoza. Watch this now. Yes, what do you need? You're awesome. Watch this. Watch this. Write this with me now. Here we go. Don't put it. Lowercase b means black shoes. Black shoes. But b is equal to black shoes. You see where I'm going right now. It's kind of a silly example, but I think the silliness is going to enable you to see where I'm headed. Watch. Let's let capital M be Mungia. Mungia has black shoes. Put MB. So Mungia, that's capital M, that's me, has black shoes. Plus Mrs. Cisneros, capital C. So the capital letters will be the people in here, the human beings. Cisneros has black shoes. Mr. Rivas has black shoes. R, B. Okay, I'm writing an expression. It's a collection of numbers and stuff. An expression. Remember that word I talked about. Valdez plus VB. Stay with me. Do you have some Ibarra? Are they black? I can't even see from here. You're the man. IB. Ibarra has some. Ramirez has some. I'm going to go one more because I'm running out of room here. This guy's another one. Miss Medina, but our M is already taken up, so I'm going to pass up Medina. I apologize. Please. I already have 2 hearts.
Oh, that's grimy.
Oh man, I better put it. That's good. All right. I'm afraid of Medina. MB. All right, watch this. Watch this. All the human beings I just mentioned here, Munguia, Cisneros, Rivas, Valdez, Ibarra, Ramirez, Medina, the common element, obviously, the common element is the black shoes. That's what they all have in common. So watch what I'm going to do. This is a nasty expression. Look at the word I'm using. This is some nasty long expression. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite the expression, but I'm going to take the common factor out of every single person, which is B, right? They all have a common. Look at it. They all have B. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the shoes off of everybody. It's going to stink in here, so to speak. Watch this. I'm going to take the shoes off of every person I just mentioned, and you're going to write it with me. Watch this, Medina. B, and then put parenthesis. I'm taking the B away from I'm taking the black shoes away from me, from Cisneros, from Ramirez, and so on. So what's left over, huh? What's left over? Thank you. Plus, thank you. Plus R, plus V, plus I, plus R, plus M. I took the black shoes off. So now I have an equivalent expression. How would I get from here, look at this, how would I get from here, this nasty expression with a parenthesis, back to here? What would I do? What's that word you said, Jones? Distribute. What does distribute mean?
Dump off the I don't know what to call it. You dump off B to the rest of the letters?
Right. I like that. Dump it. Just spread it around. I'll dump the black shoes here, black shoes to Cisneros, black shoes to Ramirez, who's the vegan? Valdez, and so on. So to get from here to here, I multiply. So that means then, going to write, that's a factor. Remember, that's the stuff you multiply to get to this stuff. And all this garbage in the parentheses is also a factor.
That's harsh. Those are students.
My bad. But I'm with them. I included myself.
Wouldn't you put NB squared? Would it be NB squared? Because there's 2 M's.
Well, it would be, well, what's an M plus another M?
M&M.
Nice. Extra stamp for that one, Medina. It'd be 2M, huh? What we're going to do, you're talking about combined like terms. I like how you're thinking. We'll do that later, though. I like what you're thinking, though. But now, here's a moral of the story. This B and everything in the parentheses are factors of the original expression, this nasty long expression. Because factors are stuff you multiply to get to other stuff. If I multiply this B by everything in there, I get to the original stuff. Stuff you multiply to get to other stuff. Now you're ready for the first example of the official one. The AC is going to turn on right now. I apologize. Here we go. Example 1. Here we go. So here's a silly example of black shoes. Watch this one now. Let's get into second gear. 3x squared plus 9x minus 18. Let's factor this puppy. Let's go to right factor. Take another black shoes example. The question is right now, what was in common between me and the rest of the human beings was the black shoes, so I took that out, and I left the rest in parentheses. What's in common with these 3 terms? They all have X? Yeah, they don't all have X, huh? 2 of them have X. What numbers do they have? They all have a 3 in common? In other words, with the way you're thinking of it, if you can't see what Donis is thinking, he's thinking like this. Look at this, that's 3x squared. 9 is really 3 times 3 times x. See, 9x I can write like this. And the 18, I can write as 6 times 3, right? So now look at what they all have in common. The 3, 1 3 here, and another 3 here. Just like the black shoes. I took out the black shoes, so right now I'm going to take out a 3 from every single one, and let's see what's left over. Watch this, do it with me. 3, look at whatever's left over, I put in parentheses. 3 times what is going to be 3x squared? 3x? X squared, huh? Because think about distributing. 3 times what's going to be that? Well, x squared. That's what's left over. I took the 3 off. Just like me, I took the black shoes away from me. All that's left is the m, because b times m would be mb. All right? I put a plus here now. 3 times what is 9x? It's going to be a 3x, huh? 3 times 3x is 9x. Cool, we're good. And then minus a 6, we're rocking and rolling. Here's your factors. Put factor here. Look at the 3 is a factor, and so is this trinomial. The whole thing is a factor. In other words, that's the stuff I multiply to get to the original stuff. If I multiply this times everything here, I get the original thing, the original expression I started with. So this is a factor, that's a factor. Everything in parentheses is a factor. It's the stuff I multiply to get to the original stuff. Beautiful. One more example, we're done. You guys are doing excellent. Maybe. Friday. Example 2. I'm going to use Dodger Blue since they're going to win on Friday, right, Donis? Example 2. Okay, so here's example 2 in Dodger Blue. They're going to beat the Milwaukee Brewers on Friday. Here we go. 5z to the 4th plus 10z to the 3rd minus 20z squared. Let's factor this puppy. So think of the black shoes. What do they all have in common? They all have a 5 for sure. They all have an exponent. How many z's do they all have? Notice, how many z's do they have in common? In order, if you can't see it quickly, here's what you do. Here's what you do. I can rewrite 5z as this. Look at this is 5z to the 4th is really this. Look at 5z times z times z times z, right? That's what that means. 10z to the 3rd is really 5 times 2 times z times z times z. See, I rewrote 10. And then z to the 3rd time is z times z times z. The 20 I can write as 5 times 4 times z times z. Now what's in common? You can kind of see it now when you break it down, all the factors. They all have at least one 5. And they all have 2 z's in common. This has 3, but what's in common? Remember, the black shoe. What was in common between me and the rest of the classmates was the black shoe. What's in common? They all have 2 z's. Be careful there. So that's what I'm going to take off. That's what I'm taking off. I'm going to take away 5z to the 2nd power from every single term. I'm going to take 5z times z away. And whatever's left over is in parentheses. One more time. I like it. But there's a more professional way to put 5z times z, right? Square. We're professionals in Mungia's class. This is why I wear a tie. So let's write it professionally. 5z squared. Thought this one more time. 5z times 1 is 5z to the 4th. Z squared. Look at that. You add the exponent. Z squared times z squared becomes z to the 4th. We're rocking and rolling. Plus, you know, shortcut is just whatever I didn't underline is what's going to be left over. Look, I didn't underline the 2 and the z, so it's 2z. That's a little shortcut if you don't want to think too much. What did I underline over here? That's what's going to be right there. 4.
Is it really negative? Or no?
Good looking out. Shame on me. Maybe. It's got to be a -4 because positive times negative became a negative. Excuse me. So this is a factor. And all this in the parentheses is a factor because this is the stuff I multiply to get to the original stuff. This is the original stuff. If I multiply the 5z squared times everything in there, so I'm going to come back to where I started. Stuff you multiply to get to other stuff. Sweetness, sweetness. Watch this now. Example 3, I'm not going to do it. Because this is how you're going to end class later after you watch your orientation video. In other words, underneath the orientation video, if you look at the agenda board, it says Assignment 13, Polynomial Factoring, GCF, Video Notes. There's one example on the video notes, that's the title of it. You'll put it right here on your notes, and then show me before you leave class so you get your second exam. I'm going to play this day in history. We're done with our notes right now. I'm going to play this day in history.